Hello, Ian.
Hello, Chulai.
How are
Hello, good to
you?
talk to you. Yeah, very well, thanks.
Yes,
Yeah,
not
that
so
week's
great
gone
weather
by
today.
quick.
I know it has.
Wow, time. We talk
Time.
about time like we used to talk about the weather.
I know, right? Oh my God.
At the time of this recording, the weather here in the UK is really appalling.
Appalling. Like it
Excessive
has been for the
rain.
whole bloody summer. Sorry, I shouldn't
Yeah, there's
swear.
no change there, really.
No, but it's just my son was saying this morning, it's really dark, mummy. Is the sun out yet? I was like, oh, of course it is out. It's just cloudy. And I looked at it, sun's actually rises at 7:38. I was like, what? No, it is not out yet.
Yeah,
But it was exactly 7:38 at that time. I said it
right.
will be out in a second. So
Yeah. It wasn't
actually,
for the clouds.
no, it's quite interesting actually. He said the sun is out, but we can't see it. And I said, yes, sun is out, we can't see it. And just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not out. And often we get so overwhelmed with what it is outside of us right at this moment
Oh,
in time.
oh, I like it. Yeah, little
Um,
bonus here. See,
we
bad weather's
kind
done us a favour.
Exactly. We kind of lose sight of what actually is. The sometimes we don't see the sun, and more often than not in the UK, we don't see the sun at all, actually. But
True.
doesn't mean the sun doesn't exist. It's still rising, and if you were to get on an airplane and go off, you'll see the sun still exists above the clouds somewhere.
It's
But
funny you should say that. Whenever I go flying, it's always brilliant weather when we get up there.
I wonder why.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. And that's very good. I like that. That's a good little illustration how
Mm.
we want to see everything in front of our eyes, I think, at
Mm.
times, don't we?
Yes.
But sometimes we can't see. Maybe you could take that illustration. We can't see, the good that's
Mm.
behind the bad. We can't see the
That's
sun that's behind the rainy clouds, maybe.
Exactly. And also, I mean, dare I say, the idea of good or bad is still a construct that we made up. Bad according to who? Bad compared to what? It's a relative term, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure good and bad exist, but one doesn't exist without the other. It's always a
Mm,
contrast, and the contrast exists. So, yes, the sun always will come out, whether it's behind the clouds, whether it's setting, just like it's in our background for those of you
mm.
who are watching on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, it's always there, but we can't always see it with all the because our judgment is clouded by what's actually going on right at this
Mm,
moment. And
mm,
sometimes it's hard to see what is
mm,
going on. So,
mm.
and
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
today I
So
wanted
just
to talk a little bit about that in a way, the overcoming
okay.
the adversity of the chaos of the world and chaos of the outside. Um, I think your listeners may have uh, heard last week that my brother had recently had an accident and broke his
Yes, we were
kneecap.
talking about that last time. Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah.
And, that was a very sobering experience. Of course, he is still going through the healing process and the pain and
Absolutely.
etc. But for us all, really, a very sobering experience in that, 1 minute everything is fine, the next minute it could just be taken away.
Mm,
Um, but there is still so much to be grateful for. And the moments, not quite moments, but an hour or so before that had happened, we were complaining and kind of laughing about, his tummy
mm.
coming out and all this sort of stuff, all these things that we take for our body for granted,
Yeah.
for example.
Yes. Yeah.
And only when we lose the ability to do things ourselves, all of a sudden just becomes so important. Yeah.
Yeah, because it focuses us in on that thing. And it's, again, to use a phrase that we've used a number of times, we focus on the lack or what we haven't
Yeah.
got, isn't it?
Exactly,
Again.
always. And it's funny, it's just so unconscious and it's so easily done. Even when
Mm.
you do want something, you want a certain outcome, but
Yeah.
subconsciously, and because this is how we are programmed in a way through the experiences that we had from an early age, we
Mm.
we inadvertently kind of focus on the outcome that we don't want. So let's say that, for example, you want to lose weight for the argument's sake, and what instead of focusing on your beautifully looking self with perfect weight and everything else. What you do focus on is how you are right now and how fat you look and all of that sort of stuff. And what you're
Yeah.
really inadvertently doing is focusing on the thing that you don't want. So if you think, I don't want a pink bear, I don't want a pink bear, I don't want a pink bear, you're constantly thinking about the pink bear. Instead, if you said to yourself, I wish I had a blue bear, blue bear, blue bear, you're thinking about the blue bear, your attention is taken away from that of what you don't want. So
Good example, yeah.
it's a very simplified example, but that's how what we do. In last week's masterclass that I did about letting go of control without losing your sense of identity, I was talking about that. What was I talking? I just lost my train of thought for a minute. Yeah, I was talking about the fact that people don't even know what they want. Sometimes the attachment to the outcome that we want makes us feel really we suffer because of the attachment we have to the outcome, but it's not really the outcome that we are attached to. It's the fact that we don't want the other outcome. We always think about the worst case scenario, and our attention focuses on the worst case scenario and not for that not happening, if that makes sense. And our brain doesn't register the word not. All it keeps focusing on is the outcome that we don't want, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It does, in a, I mean, yes, it does. If that's what we're saying, you know, because again, it's about where we're focusing and where we're thinking. You know, you say that the brain doesn't quite compute the word not. Yeah, that does make sense, because you're actually thinking about, you know, the pink bear. Then, to go back to the other example, I don't want the outcome to be the pink bear. I want it to be the blue bear.
Yeah.
So you know, yes, just by changing that thought, then you're actually making your brain rehearse and play through and make your conscious mind think of the blue bear, so the good outcome, in other words.
So
and that's the way to that. You know, that's what we focus on grows in us. It's all these things we've said before, isn't it? Come back, and it's all a complete message, isn't it? What we're giving people, in a way. We keep repeating these things, but not because we've got nothing else to say. It's because it's all linked and it all keeps coming back to us.
And also we are reminded of this in every single way. And the more areas that we can be aware of this, and the more we get to practice this, the better it is. So in the case of some events that we don't necessarily want to happen, like the example that I gave with my brother, it's something that we didn't want to happen,
of course,
but it kind of had to happen in a way, because there was a lesson in that we all had to learn. There was a reminder and a little warning, if you like, that we had to be aware of. And it was, you know, as I said before many times, the life is happening for us, not to us. So everything, any adversity we kind of experience has a lesson in it, if we are able to see it, if we open our eyes, and if we are awake to see it, if you like.
Yeah. So it's embracing the suffering and the adversity, and, you know, knowing that we've got to go through it at times, and that actually adversity, suffering is part of normal life. I mean, there are people that would say, well, you know, life's hard, life's bad, you know, it's just full of all rubbish, and, you know, why shouldn't everything go wrong? You know, that's obviously not what we're saying, but yes, we are going to all have to face adversity and suffering at some point, and it's, you know, brilliant what you said. You know, let's learn from it. Who thinks, I mean, I would never, you know, you told us about your brother, and I wouldn't say, Chula, tell me, what did you learn from that situation? I'd say, oh, that's terrible. You know, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I mean, it's genuine. You are sorry to hear. And it's not something you want to happen, as you've quite clearly said. But then you've said, whoa, right, stop. No, we didn't want this to happen. This is rubbish. This is adverse. This is suffering. But what are we now going to learn from it? Isn't it? That's what you're doing.
That is exactly what it is. And also, I want to go back and pick up on something you said, embrace the suffering.
Oh, yeah.
The suffering, in inverted commas, the suffering is our choosing, our choice. You can continue to suffer and be a victim, to the circumstance that's just happened. Of
Okay.
course, this doesn't mean that you don't have to grieve. This doesn't mean that you don't have to be sad or whatever. Of course, those are the emotions that we are going to experience as part of this,
Yeah.
but doesn't mean that we can continue to suffer. We can just let the emotions be, and we can choose to embrace it, but not suffer from it. Does that make sense? You know, suffering.
I think so. Yeah.
Suffering kind of insinuates something bad, you know, again, in the
That's right.
adversity of everything. So you don't have to just be a slave to it. You can
Yes.
embrace it, like you said. You can welcome it, you can surrender to it, you can be with it, but you don't have to continue to suffer. You know, life is hard, according to who? Compared to what? You know, we can do hard things, but we don't need to make them hard. You know, last week we talked about commitment, especially in the, you know, when going gets tough, when things get hard, we consistently continue to commit to devote ourselves to a certain path, a certain purpose. And there, if we can choose to suffer whilst we are committed to it, or we can choose to embrace it. So I just wanted to make that distinction, because like I said in that episode, most of us are committed to our struggles and suffering.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it's
Interesting
a lot
thought.
to take in.
It is a lot to take in. I'm just thinking back, you know, to I think it was this week just gone is like the 12th anniversary of my mother's funeral, and I did the address at my mother's funeral, and I can remember very much my attitude at that service, and what I was trying to convey to other people was today is a joyful day because of the person that we're remembering.
Yeah.
Naturally, you go to a funeral, a remembrance service, whatever you want to call it, and you know you're going to think about being sad. This person's gone, we've lost them, and yes, that is the truth. They're no longer here with us. But I was focusing on the blessing that we'd already had by knowing her.
Yes.
You know, what had I done to deserve a good mum like that? Well, nothing at all, really. But I'm just grateful that I had that. But that was my mum, and if I had to choose a mum again, I'd choose the same person. You know, if it was a choice, that sort of thing. So, and then, you know, the very next day, I spent most of the day crying and grieving and getting all the negative emotions. And I don't mind saying that to you and to all the listeners, because I know us men are supposed to be tough guys and we don't cry and, you know, we forge on ahead and all that. But, you know, these emotions are given to us. I didn't want to break down and cry in front of everybody at the funeral. I wanted to be positive and, you know, focus on the joy and the positive and the person that she was and how grateful we are to have all have known her. And then when I'm on my own, out of the way, in the quiet of my own room, I can just, you know, just let it all come out. And that's how I did it. And then, you know, life, then you go on just remembering. I'll never want to forget my mum. You know, you never want to forget the people that were key in our lives, and neither should we. But you know, there's no hurt and pain there anymore. It's just, if there's any emotion, it's that joy still. So
that's nice. And thank you for sharing. That's
an
a nice
example
thing. Exactly.
Good.
And that's exactly, you've made a choice at that point in time, and the choice you made helped you get through that moment. And again, you can still experience the other side of the emotion in the time of your choosing. And this is exactly what I was going to come to today.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah.
At any time that we like, we can choose how we feel. Because how we feel, I think we've talked about this a long time ago, how we feel is created by the thoughts that we focus on, and what we focus on grows within us, as we said, where our energy is flowing. And our thoughts, whatever thought you have right at this moment, can take you anywhere you like. And if you focus on the joy of it all, then you will feel joyful, then your body chemistry will change, you'll have the exhilarating feelings inside of you. But if you focus on the sadness, the grief, and everything else, then you will also feel that, and your body chemistry will change accordingly as well. So there's this mind-body connection where we can make ourselves, when we can choose to feel how we want to feel. And it's interesting because I'm going to be doing another one of these mini master classes on the 31st of October after the half term. And that I'm going to demonstrate this live to everybody on the call. and they're going to
Okay, brilliant.
experience this exact shift in the body chemistry and how they feel. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I'm just sitting here a bit stunned by the use of the word body chemistry there, because we really can make a difference to our body chemistry. I know another very quick example. Then we must talk about this work that you're doing. But sometimes my mother-in-law gets a bit down, and she says, "But I've got you guys. I've got such rich blessings. Why am I feeling like this?" And we say, well, maybe it's a chemical thing, and don't try and explain it. Don't get don't get more depressed by focusing on it and thinking, I shouldn't feel like this, but I can't explain it, and it's just going around it's just getting worse and worse. Don't worry, you're feeling like it. It's a but now I'm thinking, well, we can actually alter our body chemistry. I know we've done these, podcasts for a long time. If we've touched on this before, I've forgotten about it. I've got to admit.
I think we have a long time ago before we even became a podcast.
Right. Okay. But this is really key. So you're going to pick this up in your next workshop, basically, and people can register to join this.
That's right.
Okay. Brilliant. Tell us more, Chulai. Yeah.
So we will. Basically, anything that we hear, anything that registers in our brain can either put us into this fight and flight mode, and change everything, the adrenaline pumping or whatever, or it can actually release good feeling hormones like endorphins and oxytocin, depending on what it is, the activity that you're focusing on.
Wow.
And this could be very quick and almost instant, and the shift between the two can almost be instant. I was listening recently in another podcast where a physician, a doctor, was to tell a patient about bad news of if you like, you have cancer, especially that C word. As soon as you tell them, you could observe and measure the change in body chemistry immediately. And they measured
in the doctor or in the patient,
in the patient, in the patient,
right? Okay.
The person who received the bad news.
Right. Okay.
And then once he'd made a mistake in telling a patient, and as soon as he'd realized and he told the patient that he made a mistake, it switched back to exactly what it was prior to receiving the bad news. So, and it can be really quick like this. I don't know if you remember in your old corporate days where sometimes you receive an email that you don't necessarily want to receive, or I don't know, something that puts you into some sort of kind of panic situation.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
As soon as you even see the title, see the name, see the whatever, you just get into that situation almost instantly.
Yes. Yeah. I know it.
And it used to happen to me, which is like, I'm obviously well past that now, but
me too.
Our body chemistry can change, and knowing this, being aware of this, we can be in control, dare I say, or regulate. We can be in the choice of being able to choose what we want to think at that point in time. And of course, it isn't easy. I'm not saying this is a flip of a switch, whatever, but once we learn, we can practice more and more. Anyway, so this masterclass will take place on the 31st of October at 12 p.m. and this will be GMT now. We will have changed clocks by then, I guess.
That's right. Yes, it will be. Yes, it will be British, whatever the British time is, which will be GMT, as you quite rightly say.
Greenwich Mean Time, as it were. But that'll be at 12 p.m. And in order to catch any of the recordings prior to this or from now on, you'd need to register so that you can receive those recordings as a playlist.
Yeah. Chulai, I might be very clear here. Do people need to register before the 31st of October?
They do.
2023.
They do. But if for some reason they forget, but in order to attend that class live, yes, they do.
Sure. Yes.
And they can still register after, because these classes will continue for another couple of months, but each week we cover a different subject. For this specific topic, they do need to register so that they can attend live or catch the recording. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make it clear in case somebody's watching this podcast a year later from our date of our recording, then I just want to make it clear
Yeah.
The live event is the 31st of October 2023.
Correct.
Which is in the future at the time of our recording, but of course you could be listening to this at any time in the future. So just to make that clear. Well, Chula, thanks very much. I think we're just about done for time again. There's my usual prompt, my usual bit of clock watching that I do on this podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there for today, and I look forward to talking to you again as usual.
Thanks, Ian.